Well, this is a kind of first. I just had a Hatemare. I didn't know such a thing as a Hatemare existed, but it's a dream where I'm not afraid. I'm just filled with hate, and in the dream, I'm not hurting anybody or anything like that. The dream, the main thing that I remember from the dream is of everybody disliking me intensely, and at one point in the dream, I pushed my foster brother's couch he slept on out in the yard, and then when he complained about it, no, he didn't even complain about it. He acted like nothing happened, but he was pissed about it. And I said, "Well, at least it's cool outside, and it's nice out tonight. It's nice and cool. You'll like sleeping out there." And then I remember my sister was in it, and she was heaping disapproval on my behavior. And then I was walking around the house carrying a guitar in my hand that was somehow amplified and just making random noises on it. And my foster brother was asking me to quit that, which might have been why I pushed his couch that he slept out in the yard. And I really don't remember a lot of the other details of the dream, but I remember, you know, doing that thing. You put on your glasses and you look at the alarm clock, and I mean, it felt wrong. I was like, let it be about 3 o'clock. That's cool. I'll just stay awake. But no, no, no. It was 11:13, so I had slept for about 3 hours tops, and then wide awake and filled with hate over my sister. And a weird thing happened. Like I don't know. Somehow um, I was talking about how the '70s were to grow up in on the internet, just randomly, and how the things that were better in the '70s are more important than the things that are better now. Like there's better entertainment, there's better technology, some improvements here and there about different things. I mean, you can buy anything you want to over the computer, and but the main thing in the '70s is you weren't afraid all the time, and it's less like and somebody assumed that I was a white guy, or maybe they looked up my page or something like that. But they said, imagine being black, a gay, or trans, or transsexual, or a woman in the '70s. And I'm like, well, I can't really imagine that now. So, and originally in my reply I said, I doubt you could imagine that now or then. And I said I basically went off on a tangent because it was analyzing the works of the Game of Thrones author and Tolkien, rather doing a psychoanalyst type thing about why they wrote the way they wrote. Because that's how the '70s came up, is because this kid was like, I'm just going to call him a kid, I don't know how old he is, but he did never denied being young. But he was like, um, everybody talks about the good old days being better, and um, well, that came up. That the Tolkien guy was always talking about. From somebody else wrote that in this stupid thread that I was on. But anyways, main point is like the kid ended up calling me a bunch of names. But first he called me just like I wrote him a long thing just because I felt like writing. Which was basically that. It's like describing what the '70s were like and saying I can't imagine what it's like to be any of them things now, let alone then. I don't have that good of imagination, but I don't have to have an imagination about the '70s because I was there in the '70s and I'm kind of alive now, sort of. I put mostly. And he just wrote, "Okay, boomer," which boomer I think now just means an old person. It doesn't mean, it's not short for baby boomer. But I corrected him and I said, no, not really a baby boomer. I just said that, uh, first I said like you're kind of proving what I wrote or my thesis, as I put it humorously, right? Because, and I quoted myself saying that people were more polite back then by just dismissively calling me old. 'Cause I know a boomer means old, but it used to mean be short for baby boomer, and a baby boomer is somebody that's the baby boom when all the soldiers came home from World War II. So it's somebody that's from the 50s, and I'm from the late 60s, and I'm just like I'm kind of between her. I'm kind of like post baby boom, so I'm not really a baby boom guy. Then I wrote him some stuff, and then he just wrote me some bunch of hateful stuff. And it, how they have click more or read more on the comments. It's like I didn't bother to click on it, and I wrote him something, that had like a couple of unpleasant lines on it, nothing too bad. But then I read the rest of it, and he was like, "You're just like the if I don't take the time to trouble myself with the rest of or my family over this, I'm not going to bother with somebody." He called me smug and set in my ways and all this stuff. I think thought he was talking to like a 70-year-old or something like that. I'm like, well, I said, well, I'm sorry that you got like family issues. This was right before I went to sleep, but I was like, took the time to answer him. I got real sleepy. I ate a huge meal and I got real sleepy. And I'm like, well, I might as well go to sleep a little bit early. So I was stupid enough to look at my replies and write this because that stimulates my mind and it got me thinking. And so I write him back, and I clicked on read more, and it was about his family, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry you got that trouble with your family. I would have been nicer to you if I had clicked on read more originally. Because originally I was just like I'm not going to debate with you because there's nothing to debate here. I can't debate your opinion of me because he was like, I'm not going to address all your misconceptions, and the gulf between us cannot be bridged and can't be reconciled any more than it can be with the members of my family, and there's all these issues he's throwing at me. So, anyways, I blame him for my hate mare, but damn it. That's why they say YouTube comments are poisonous. It's a common meme, or it used to be. But I don't know. I just like to write and I like to talk to people on the internet, usually. Um, I actually always, it's sure it doesn't have anything to do with him. It has to do with, but yeah, that happened right before I went to sleep, and it kind of stuck in my head a little bit. It's like, oh, I wish I would have read that. I wasn't even fucking bothered with, you know. But then I felt bad because the first comment I wrote was a little bit, uh, not too mean. Like I said, it was just like, you know, a little bit of dismissiveness back, and he got offended because I called him a youngin, and I was just being humorous because he called me old man. Basically, a boomer is an old man. I guess I have to look it up, but I mean, I believe that means old man nowadays, a boomer. You know, but at least they generalized it at least to being an old man. And but it used to be a baby boomer, and a baby boomer now is an old man because baby boomers are from the 50s because the baby boom happened after World War II, as I've said. So obviously, I'm way too awake for it to be 12:23 a.m. because my alarm's set for 4, and believe me, I've been sleeping like deep sleeps and waking up and hitting the alarm clock, and in a real hurry to get my coffee and caffeine in me. Anyways, so this guy's got issues with his family. I got issues with my family. I can relate. I tell him like more or less like I would have been nicer, and I quoted Emily Dickinson's quote, which is, "I'd rather have a pumpkin, and I'd rather sit on a pumpkin and have it all to myself than be crowded on a velvet cushion." As I said, my advice to you is to not worry about reconciling. If you're talking about like people that are older than you, not worry about reconciling with them, but break away from them emotionally and financially, and become independent and become your own man. Tran, put a play on their words there, a little rhyme. Become your own man, hyphen Tran, or woman or whatever, but find independence financially and emotionally. But yeah, um, I think the hate's past, but it's a horrible thing to wake up and fall full of hate like that. And dream I was being a dick, and like part of the dream was like people were taking off and jumping in cars without me and going places. I remember my younger brother was. I still haven't talked to my younger brother about this bullshit where he says yes you can move in, and then a couple days later says no. So, um, but I've described all that stuff on here before, but I got like a beef with my brother-in-law because I was going through withdrawal, and he was like, can't you find somebody else?" And I was like, "Dude, you went cold turkey from alcohol. Like the only two withdrawals." I'm thinking to myself, like the only two withdrawals that can kill you are alcohol and benzodiazepines. I just got done telling you I'm miserable, and you can't jump in a car and drive me to pick up a prescription. I'm like, yeah, I'll try to find somebody else. It's like I'd jump at the chance to help him if I could, you know, jump at the chance to help these people. And then, like, the main thing that I woke up though is I woke up and I was thinking about my sister, and I was like, I thought up all these things to say to her, which all disappeared now. I can't remember what they were, but like uh, I wrote her a letter saying all she got to do is admit that what she did was kind of a fucked up thing. And I compared it to the situation with my foster brother, who in the dream's couch I pushed out on the lawn just as like a joke or just to be mean. Um, where he made all those promises, and then he kind of just split when my mom died and left me and my brother hanging, even though he always referred to my mom as his second mom. My mom took him in for like the period that his mom was in jail, and that's why he was my foster brother. And loved him and took care of him. And then he's not only not there for him, but he's not there for his pseudo brothers, um, his foster brothers, not pseudo brothers, real brothers. Pseudo means fake, but I explained like I didn't, that's way worse than anything that you ever did, and like uh, all he had to do was admit it, and I was able to get past it. It's like I don't even remember if he said I'm sorry. So I'm just asking her to like humble herself enough to call me and say, yeah, that was kind of a fucked up thing I did, because I fronted my foster brother out, as I've said many times on here, and I just said, look, man, you abandoned us, and I said that's all I wanted was for you to take my brother out on that boat. I didn't. Um, I kept it short and sweet. I didn't leave any details, but I was like, you kind of abandoned us and disappeared when my mom was dying. And he was like, I don't have anything to say to that, you know. And he might have said I'm sorry. He might not have said I'm sorry, but he didn't try to defend himself. He didn't, make a bunch of excuses like my sister did for kind of leaving me hanging when I was having my breakdown and shit. But I got beef against my brother-in-law for not driving me um, when I was having withdrawal to pick up medication to make me unsick, and I'm having to ask somebody else to do it. It's like, yeah, I know that's like you have to drive further than this other person, but you know, and I got beef with him. I got beef with his wife, my sister, and then I got beef with my foster brother. Now I got a little beef with my brother. I don't really have, I got like one other family member uh, that I was close to that, yeah, I can't, I probably said what they did on here, but I'm not going to say it again just in case I didn't say it the first time. But they only did like one bad thing. They're not real empathetic, um, or anything like that, but they're always making an effort to be nice to me, and they used to bring me like groceries randomly, and, you know, it was just, generally nice to me. I don't have no major beef with them, but maybe I should call my brother and like hash out my feelings before I have any more heat mares. But yeah, that guy had beef with his family, and I think it triggered a dream that where all my beefs with my family came up in a hate mare. I don't understand that. Um, I wasn't scared of any of them people hurt me, and I remember my sister was featured in it pretty heavily, just heaping scorn on me for behaving the way I was behaving. Because I was like going around being a dick to all of them. It's just the main thing I remember is the couch pushing thing. And then walking around with the guitar, making just random noise with the guitar. Not even playing it, but holding it and like tapping on it. And having somebody say, please stop doing that, which is something that my sister did in real life when I had my first guitar because nobody taught me uh, lessons or even how to tune a guitar, so of course it sounded horrible, and she had like a scratched cornea, which is a miserable thing. She asked me very politely, would you please stop doing that? And I Pete Townsend and my guitar over the arm of a couch and smashed it. There was a little global acoustic. My brother put, I threw it in the garage. I said, there, are you happy? And she was crying, which it doesn't take much to make you cry when you have a scratched cornea. Them things hurt like a bitch. It's one of the more painful things I had like a mild scratch cornea, and it's a painful thing. Um, but my brother fished my guitar out of the garage with the hole in the back, and at the time there was a wrestler called Honky Tonk Man who used to be a Elvis impersonator character, and he used to break his guitar over top of people's head, and then somebody put like a sign on the back of his one of his guitars that's with the holes in it that said "Ban the DDT," which is a wrestling move. And so my brother took it out of the garage, and for a joke, he taped up a sign on the back of it. My younger brother banned the DVT, because he gets whimsical ideas too, like putting a plague cross on my door, which my plague cross is very well centered. That's on my door, by the way. But yeah, I've been taking 10 milligrams of Valium instead of 15, like every day. Today I didn't take the Neurontin. It's another thing, I was like, I've been having trouble getting going in the morning, so instead of like mixing the Neurontin, I'll just take a blood pressure pill. And I went to sleep okay, but I didn't stay asleep. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna take 10 milligrams, talk my feelings out, and try to go back to sleep and try to save this abortion of a night. And yeah, I can't remember ever having a dream like that where you wake up not because you're afraid, you just wake up because you're so full of hate. I don't want to. That's what I kind of wanted to go back and do. Is like I wanted to go back and live at my brother's house and smooth all that shit out with my sister and my brother-in-law. Which my brother-in-law, I guess, is kind of loopy. He always was loopy because he did way too many substances. So he was always off, emotionally. There's other stuff that he did that, I just kind of don't really hold against him. Where, uh, like when I buried my freshly dead cat in his yard and he yelled at me, like, I was emotionally devastated, and he yelled at me, like, for burying the cat in his yard. And, like, I wish you wouldn't have done that. Like, how many animals are buried out there? It's like, instead of like, oh, it's terrible, he went, it was early in the morning and he had to go to work. I mean, I don't blame him for that. It's not his fault that I neglected my cat. My cat died at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I had to truck it down there in a garbage bag and bury it in his yard. Um, Mornings are a hard time to be emotionally in touch with other people yet. So, but he was always like that, you know. He was always had issues where with his emotions, and it was weird. Like like I use him as an example of like an old guy that is weepy and crying all the time because he didn't express himself when he was younger. Oh God, what a weepy drunk he was. You know, break down and cry a lot. And I'm trying to think if he did that post alcoholism because he was the guy that was like quit or die. He's like I can't just drink a little bit and wean myself off of the stuff, because he was an honest to God alcoholic. He can't have just one drink to steady his nerves. He couldn't control himself. He'd drink whatever was there, and so he was like quit or die. And he was like curled up in a ball and seeing things and damn the DTs and whatnot. And he said he was the guy who said like he saw angels and devils and the angels won. Um, Anyways, yeah, I've been talking for 20 whole damn minutes. That's easy for me. Uh, yeah, this is weird. I run into somebody on the internet who's got family issues who he can't be reconciled with his family, and then like just randomly, just over calling me old. So I called him young, and then he got really offended when I called him young, and he like went in on me, as the young people say nowadays, and was attacking me, and I'm like, this. I just wrote ad hominem nonsense, attack my argument, or attack the argument, not the man, you know, and was a little bit, it's like it's beneath me to debate you because I can't debate your opinion of me. Your opinion of me is your opinion of me. That's not like a factual thing. That's subjective. I didn't write that part of it. I just like I can't debate your opinion of me. You know. And then I read more of it, like I said, and it was like this dude got issues with his family, and he's just taking them out on me. And then I was like nice to him after that. And I was like wished him well and gave him the advice like don't try to reconcile with your family, just try to break away from them. And he never said how old he was. So that's the last thing you want to do is give. Well, I don't give a fuck, but I'm me. I'm very capable of defending myself in print, believe me. So I don't care about giving people ammo, but he never told me exactly how old he was. But the implication from what he wrote is like he was having trouble with a lot of the old people in his family, and he was like, "There's a gulf there that can't be breached," or I don't know what the right word is at 12 a.m. But I remember he used the word gulf. Oh, a gulf that can't be reconciled. So no reconciliation is possible. So I'm not going to bother trying to reconcile between a stranger on the internet when there's a similar gulf between us. And I'm like, this guy's having a fight with himself, man. What the fuck is going on here? So, I did give him the best advice I could give him. Like, instead of like dealing with all that negative emotion and stuff, just like just break away and go out on your own. And you don't have to just be financially independent when you're coming up, as they say. You have to be emotionally independent. Like I was financially independent and living somewhere else, but I kept going back to my folks' house and was still emotionally hooked up with everybody. And then I was still emotionally hooked up with my family, you know, for years because of I just didn't, yeah, I didn't like branch out. and make a lot of friends. So I was never good at making friends from being weird. Then, like, also, my brother had some issues, and I felt like I'd be abandoning him if I just like moved away from all of them. You know, it's like I didn't want to, like, no soldier left behind. It's a brotherhood of pain. When I used to watch my aunt and uncles on my father's side get together, they had this weird camaraderie about them, like they'd been to a war together, you know? Because my grandfather was like pure evil. My dad wasn't pure evil. My grandfather was pure evil. And so it was kind of like that, you know, it's kind of like no soldier left behind is kind of like the attitude that I had. And plus, I was never good at like relationships of any kind, you know. Um, Never good with women. You know, that was what I really wanted, of course, was to break away in my youth and get a solid relationship. I even said that to my foster brother. I said, the only thing that's going to help me is to find a female shoulder to cry on, and that's it, you know. And by that I meant more than what it actually sounds like. But I mean, you know, somebody that I could, you know, the whole relationship deal, where I felt like I could find somebody that could understand me and have a future with and all that. But yeah, I have to look that up and see if they changed the meaning to boomer to just being old or thinking old. It's not baby boomer anymore. But yeah, I am like wide awake, like wide. You know, I'm gonna listen to The Hobbit, which should be plenty of boring enough to put me to sleep because you know got it about memorized. I had it memorized to the point so bad that I was listening to an abridged version of it, and they were doing the riddle game where Gollum says, Bilbo gives Gollum the riddle. 32 soldiers marching on a hill. First they champ, then they stamp, then they stand still. Since the number 32 obviously gives it away, it's teeth. And Gollum says, teeth, but I only has three. And they skipped the I only has three part. And I was like, man, fuck this. You know, I want to listen to that because I didn't. The Hobbit's over 10 hours, and you know, I'm going to go to sleep and have. That's bad to have a book playing in the background for hours and hours. So I was like, went with the abridged version, and I was like, I didn't know if it was part of the book or what, but I just like unplugged the computer and then let the battery die because my battery dies in about 2 hours. So I just listened to the unabridged thing. But yeah, that should, you know, once these pills kick in, maybe I can, my schedule won't be all fucked up. But yeah, or maybe I can try the Tao Te Ching. 'Cause I tried that thing where I was like listening to the same book every night to try to put me to sleep, and that's a very maybe I'll try that to The Hobbit, and it worked, but I got tired of hearing it, you know. But it was kind of, you know, I thought it might be a cue for my to tell my body it's like, oh, it's time to shut down. I ate a huge meal last night at almost like a regular supper time, and I was sleepy around 7 o'clock, and I'm like, damn. I was like, I think I could go to sleep. I'm like, damn, had all this other stuff I was gonna do, but now I think I will go to sleep. And of course, that's the problem is you have to do a bunch of stuff like before you go to sleep, go to the bathroom, you know, brush your teeth, and it wakes you up. And then by the time you hit the bed, and I hit the bed and got in that weird, you know, had contact with that person that was uh, clearly got family issues. And I'm like, sorry about the family issues, by the way, was my first line. And, you know, like, oh shit, I feel like a heel now. I didn't know he was like taking his frustrations out on me because of family issues. We could have commiserated, you know, or I could have asked him some questions. Instead, it just turns into something nasty. He never wrote me back or wrote me a reply. I just like, I said I wish you the best and good luck, and I gave him the Emily Dickinson quote, which I've always liked. I'd rather sit on a pumpkin and have it all to myself than be crowded on a velvet cushion. He needs to go find his pumpkin. And he had like an Indian son name, and like other cultures, family is a whole different thing, you know. Especially like the traditional Indian culture, they'd be picking brides and shit for you. So, um, yeah, my point about the '70s was pretty simple. It was like kids grow up like I was like he told me to imagine what it was like growing up in the '70s if I was black, a tranny, or uh, you know, a woman. And I was like, can you imagine? No Ted Bundy, no 9/11, no Columbine, no Amber Alerts, because that's what the '70s was. I mean, '70s Bundy was killing people, but they hadn't caught him yet. And as a kid, I didn't grow up thinking about being kidnapped, raped, and murdered. And we kept our door unlocked until it was time for people to go to sleep. And that was like, when it was bedtime, then we locked the door. The door was just open. And I would go into like neighbors' houses and they wouldn't even know who I was as a kid. And not a young kid either. But, um, a kid, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old. And then they'd be like, who are you? And I'd be like, oh, I'm Pete's boy. Because, that was my name, Pete's boy. And they're like, oh, okay. You know, and people were all open and like the whole trick or treat thing, which they outlawed. That was my favorite holiday where you could just go out till midnight or whatever. I think as a kid, it was always at night. And as long as you were in a group of kids, you go out with your little masks. And, I would usually take a pillowcase and fill up a pillowcase full of candy. But yeah, that was my favorite holiday. Scoring all that candy as a little kid. And of course, evil people fucked that up for the kids. And now they have it in the daytime and it's scheduled, and everybody's, holding on to their kid with a chain so nobody can snatch them away. And it's like, you got no idea what it was like if you're a millennial to grow up in a relaxed environment like that where, like, you can be a kid. You can just go off with your buddies and have adventures and stuff, and like not. I mean, we stayed out after dark and shit. We would get up early in the morning and take off miles away from home to go fishing. Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of freedom that they don't give kids nowadays, and we weren't all that different. Our family was clearly messed up. But we weren't all that different than other families, because I would go to other people's houses and you just send the kids out to play. You go about your business and there's trust that the world would treat them nice. That was the '70s in Ohio, and that was my point. Is like I just feel bad for y'all youngins, because you gotta, you know, we we gotta eat, sleep, and drink fear all the time. You know, gotta be afraid. I was like, as far as like crack and meth, I mean, crack come around in the '80s and made big news, but I never even heard of meth in the '70s. And I heard of cocaine in the '70s. Everybody did, because Richard Pryor kind of, yeah, everybody knew Richard Pryor in the '70s, and he talked about snorting cocaine. And even like in the suburbs, we knew about cocaine. And there was other drugs around, crystal tea, which I never figured out exactly what the hell that was. PCP, marijuana, of course, but it wasn't like the marijuana nowadays, which is basically a whole new animal. That was like smoking pathetic grass back in the '70s compared to what the nerdy scientists have cooked up nowadays. Um, what other drugs were around? Heroin, of course, and Valium and pill addiction. Mother's little helper gets her through her busy day, sends her on her busy way. Um, though she's not really ill, there's a little yellow pill. Mine are yellow, as a matter of fact. So I just took two of them and just hoping to go back to sleep. I don't know if I can. Now, how the hell am I going to reconcile all this hate? It's like all my family dealings. Um, yeah, it's like I don't really. I got a guy I talked to in Florida. I got my best friend's actually my cousin, but he's like a far removed cousin. Um, I don't got no beef with him. I don't have any beef with the guy in Florida. I don't have any real beef with this other person that lives up here. That's family, but um, they're going through some stuff right now that I just don't want to be drawn into the riptide of. You know what I mean? I don't want to get drowned in other people's stuff right now because I might have enough trouble getting to the dentist and stuff. And I got situations to deal with like everyday life. So my life's hard enough. And other than that, everybody else I got some kind of beef with, like outstanding beef. I would just like to put paid to that. And I thought like if I went back to my brother's house, since that's the old family house, it's like I could get rid of all that, and not have hate mares and squash all that old beef. That was part of the deal for me wanting to move in there for a few months. Here, I mean, I got a good deal as far as living here. It's not fun. And I did hear Chris's voice. I didn't mention that, but he did come around. He's got kind of a deep voice for a little feller. But he did come around, and Stampy up there greeted him like she hadn't seen him for a while. And it's like, hey, how have you been doing? So I don't really think he lives here. I think he pays rent here. I think he spends most of his time somewhere else, but he wants to keep this apartment. But I did hear his voice the other day. I cringed when I heard it. You know, 'cause that would be like if he stays away. I mean, I don't get to use my living room, and I have to listen to a lot of noise. But 425 rent. All I got to pay is $20 electric. So my we'll call them terminal expenses, though I don't know if that fits. Is only like let's see, $500, right around $500 a month because I have to pay electric and I have to pay internet. Internet 60, electric's 20. Yeah, it'd be about $505. You know, and then I get to pocket the other $750 that I get, and I don't have to spend any money on food. So, you know, still stay here and save a lot of money, but this is not a good place to live, and it's not a sane way to live. Plus, I'm always waiting for. That's one of the things I was going to do yesterday was get my electronic equipment out of the bedroom because if water is going to come through the ceiling, it's going to come through in the bedroom. And my amplifier and my $165 guitar processor is, I don't have anything to cover them up with at the ready because I ran out of garbage bags. And so I was going to carry them out of the room. 'Cause, you know, that tub situation up there, she has that tub that leaked and that I broke my toes over back in November. You may or may not remember that. Well, that silicone is still holding on that hole in that bathtub. But, suppose some days it decides not to hold, which screwed her out of getting a new shower, but he's happy. You don't have to pay for the shower installment thing, whatever that is. The bathroom outfitters, you didn't have to go to get like the tub shower combo thing, um, and work on that. In other words, that's another thing is I broke my toes over nothing, so I got beef in this building. I got beef with my family. So I shouldn't be surprised I had a hate mare. And yeah, I said that too many times in this video, but it's just kind of funny. Funny in a sick way, that be so filled with hate that you have a hate dream that wakes you up and you're have hate instead of a nightmare where it is a scary dream where you wake up filled with another emotion, fear. Now, according to Hindu mythology and their origin stories, the two primary emotions that the first being felt were fear and desire for another, because he was one and he wanted to be two, so he split into two. Well, I'm just calling him a he, but the first primordial being, you know, he had desire for another, so he split into two, and then so on and so forth. So he did a little mitosis to keep himself company. And so the first emotions were desire and the other thing I said, fear of being alone, and the desire for nothing, the desire for another. So fear, of course, is a primordial emotion. Desire is what drives actually most of the evil in the world, because desire is just greed. And that's why the Buddhists are all about overcoming desire. I don't know where hate figures in there, you know, but hate is, I've learned since 2017, is a pretty goddamn powerful emotion and can disrupt your sleep and shit. So I'm sorry for not taking off my glasses, but this is an unusual video. People usually don't wake up from hate mares and try to, you know, get rid of the bad feelings by talking on the internet about stupid dreams that they have and they can barely remember. Just remember the emotions from the dreams. Like, it's like, boy, I got a lot of like emotion that I need to get rid of. Um, but that was part of the deal. It's like, well, I can move into my brother's house for like 3 months. I can get rid. I looked at the positives. I can get rid of my cat and not have to worry about him, which opens up tons of moving options. I can squash the beef with my sister and reconnect with my brother-in-law, which I don't know how. He's kind of there and not there a lot of times. So his story is a little bit complicated, but I can kind of like, make peace with that part of my family. And by the way, another thing that happened today is I got a call from Maslin, and I did not check the answering machine message, but it looked familiar, the number, and I think it's those people over there that I excommunicated. But yeah, I turned my phone off. It'll take like an hour to turn on. I was like, I don't know. That could be that one dude that asks me for a job periodically, because I don't have any long-standing relationship with him. But he's the guy that I chased out of here when the crack dealer was out there, and he was asking me for $60 for his girlfriend, which is the one that lost the therapy tape, and their therapy disc that I gave him, and then you got the mother, and then you got my foster brother, and the mother gave me the first benzodiazepines, which I still blame myself fully for, but because she didn't know what she was fucking with either. And I got my foster brother, who's, oh, that was super loud. I always had a lot of beef with. Let's see if I can turn this down. Not that much. His phone barely works. See who that message was from, if that was actually from my foster brother. I didn't even fuck with that yesterday because I didn't want to hear his voice. And I still ended up getting waylaid by some stranger reminding me that I have family beef. This thing's making all kind of noises. And it's putting up a P. Why is it putting up? It's just a black. Okay, now it's yeah, this is what I get. It's gone now, but it was like a red pea. Or at first it was a black pea, and then it turned a bunch of colors. But yeah, this is how my this phone works. It's got a bunch of ads in it, and you can't get to. Please allow me. There, I got a message. Let's see what it is. Oh, I hit call. Clean Master popped up and saved me from calling them at 1 o'clock in the morning. I have to check my voicemail, see who it is. If it's if they were going to try to reconcile with me, it's about money. So let's see. I'll put it on speaker. Yeah, no, put up the speaker icon.
Number 33083248550.
It's a Maslin number.
Received May 23rd at 4:15 p.m. Hi, Steve. It's Robin Hendricks from National Falls Guard Human Services. And I'm behind again on my reviews with you, but right now we're doing our reviews over the phone because of the closure. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot she lived in Maslin. That's the like my case manager, Robin. Okay, she's from the aid worker peoples. But I had to call them on Friday because they had me scheduled for a home visit on the 28th, and the guy I talked to was named Tom Tanis. He said they were gonna send me a letter in the mail, so I'm not sure why she's calling me. Since that's not till the 28th, like I said, all my appointments fell on the 28th, so I had to reschedule. The guy that prescribes these, I had to reschedule his appointment for the 4th, from the 28th to the 4th, which is that's like a full week, and my prescription is technically for the 1st, but I didn't pick it up till the 5th. So, before that, I had 7 extra pills before I snagged them 2 out of there and took them out of turn. But I was feeling okay at taking 10 milligrams of Neurontin, but apparently the Neurontin is what was keeping me asleep and keeping the Hatemares away. I don't know, but I just didn't like how hard it was for me to get out walking in the morning. I didn't like the drowsiness in the morning from the mix of Neurontin and the tiny 5 milligram dose of Valium. I think the lowest dose of Valium is right around 5 milligrams that you take. It might be 2.5. I don't know. But I remember like when I was going through cold turkey withdrawal with Xanax, that bastard Joseph A. Cook prescribed me Ativan, and I was like, man, this don't seem to be doing a whole lot. Lorazepam, also known as AKA, and I looked it up, and it was literally the lowest dose. I looked it up on like drugs.com or different sites, and I was like, motherfucker gave me the lowest possible dose of this stuff to make up for the strongest benzodiazepine. He gives me the lowest dose of Ativan possible. They don't give any doses lower than that. And I was like, small wonder, I take it and I feel like the barest minimum of relief for a little bit, and maybe I can get to sleep. And yeah, that's when I broke down and I went to the ER and said, look at me, and like got in my boxers. I don't wear boxers. Oh, I do wear boxer briefs. Like, you need to know that. But I was just like, look at me, and showed my hideous form with all my scar tissues and my mangled up legs. All good, and emoted a little bit in order to went Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro a little bit, and in order to make an impression. Cause if you don't make an impression, like you're suffering, if you don't reach people on an emotional level, even though doctors are not supposed to think on an emotional level, or they're people, and they're like, well, you're not suffering that bad just because you don't act like it. Well, I acted like it when I was in the ER, And so he was like, the best I can do, because I'm only an ER doctor, is to prescribe you um, 15 1 milligram Xanax pills. And then I was like, well, this is a month supply, so I can take a half a milligram a day and get by. So I was like, thank you. And then I was like, I ain't calling nobody for a ride home. I don't care about heart trouble or whatever. So I walked out of the ER and I walked home, and I wasn't walking too good in Affinity Hospital before they closed it down. Um, oh, I don't know. It's like a third of a mile away from here, but you see me walk. I don't walk so good. So, you know, and I was in cold turkey at that point. So I walked home in cold turkey. And I was like, do or die. You know, I just had the prescription. He didn't give me no pills. He said he could give me one. And I was like, no. I don't know why I refused. I refused at the time because I wanted to walk home and I wanted to be. I thought I wasn't thinking straight. I was in cold turkey, but I wanted to be like clear headed for the walk home. So I didn't get none until the morning, like early. As soon as the drugstore opened, I took the script down in the morning myself because at that time I could still ride an electric bike and immediately got the pills and immediately took one. Uh, at the time, I think that he gave me like a limited script for lorazepam because I didn't whine and cry and plead, and so I figured that's like junkie behavior anyway. It's like I just told him I was miserable, and he would at the time he wouldn't prescribe Xanax for me. So that was the first time I ever got anybody to prescribe Xanax was by putting on that dog and pony show in the ER for that guy. So after that guy wrote Xanax script for me because I had already my aunt had already been my supplier and got me dependent on him accidentally. I'm hoping, which I still don't blame her for that because I'm responsible for what goes in my body. She at least looked it up and found out about it. But I was already dependent, but I had never gotten a legal script at that point. So that was my first legal script was in the ER, and then my doc that like broke the seal. And the fucked up part was is like I scored some off the street. Finally, I scored like Xanny bars. I mean, like 2 milligram Xanny bars that I could chop up. And then I went to my doctor, and without even asking, he was like, "I see you had an ER visit over anxiety," and he said, "I'm going to go ahead and prescribe you Xanax." So I was like, "Oh shit! I just bought." I wasn't mad over the $60 or whatever it was I paid for the Xanny bars, but I was like, I just bought. I was already hooked myself up, and now he's going to hook me up. So I had like a whole bunch of Xanax here, and I probably abused it, but I don't really remember. That's the effect of Xanax and heavy benzo use is that you don't remember a lot of things. Um, I don't really remember that period of time all that well. I know I wasn't chugging them and zombifying myself, there, like I've said before, there were days where I probably took 2 milligrams at a time. I was my highest dose that they ever had me on legally was 1 milligram a day, and there was times when I was taking 2 milligrams. There was also times where I had appointments in other cities and stuff where I was like, I'm gonna take as much as I need until I'm comfortable and not freaking out. Because when you don't have like bodily integrity and your body doesn't work right, I mean, it fucks with your confidence. If you're worried about falling over, if you're worried about like their excretory functions misfiring and you're not, I got chaos from here down. It doesn't make you brave. I mean, it actually means you have to be more brave, but does not inspire confidence. We'll put it that way. Because when I was reading about the Blackfoot Indians or Native Americans, but they're in Canada, so you know, whatever. But they come from Upper Minnesota mainly. And I think some of them lived in Canada originally anyway. I don't even remember. It's been too long since I researched that book, but I do remember that I was reading about a lot about them, and they had a guy in there that said that they believed that courage could not exist without a strong body, which I think they meant courageous deeds. Like you couldn't, me walking in the morning is not really a courageous deed by normal standards, except for the fact that I don't walk so good and I could hit the concrete at any freaking time. Or I was thinking the last time I did that, I was thinking, if I fall out here, I'm not 100% sure I can get up, you know, because I'm tired already. I might get up and just fall back over again. So that's the what's eating Gilbert Grape lesson about how courage is relative to your situation. Like if you're strong and healthy, I mean, getting in a fight for me when I was strong and healthy, that didn't take a lot of courage. It did not take a lot of courage for me to walk up to somebody bigger than me when I was in the park who was yelling at me and face him down and back him down. It did not take much courage for me to do that. I just had to look at them like I wanted to skip rope with their intestines and give them the crazy eye and let them know, like, man, if you get in a fight with me, man, it's going to be a serious matter. And he was like, throw that fish back in the water. That incident and other incidents. I mean, that's if you're strong and you got a strong pair of legs underneath you, as I did at that time. That doesn't take a lot of bravery to do that. It didn't take a lot of bravery when I was a kid to get in fights, pick people up, throw them around and whatnot, because you got that healthy body. But uh, it took bravery for me to pick up an actual weapon, a machete, and walk out and face uh, the meth people in the hallway because I knew that they're crazy. And I figured that there would be death threats over this, but I figured I had to make a stand. And I'm like, oh, God, I got to be crippled Batman and go out there and, face these fucking criminals because my landlord won't help me. The police can't help me. And it's like, what the hell else am I going to do? So I got this. I can't let this continue, you know. So, um, yeah. So courage is relative to the situation you're in. And in Gilbert Grape, like I've said, it took more courage. They made that point out explicitly, and I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. I was healthy at the time. Like the guy was talking about, imagine if you're black or a woman. I'm like, I can't imagine being a woman. Fuck am I gonna do that? I couldn't imagine that when I was in the '70s. I can't imagine it now, and I'm old. It's ridiculous. So they spelled it out in that Gilbert Grape movie that big giant fat woman. It took more courage for her to walk to the post office than it did for other people to like jump out of airplanes and stuff because everybody was making fun of her and she was a spectacle and she was like one of them people cut a hole in the wall type fat people. And she stayed in the house, and I could sort of relate to that because there's a couple of people in my family that were uh, would fight agoraphobia where they wouldn't want to go nowhere. I'm not going to give any details on that just to protect them. um, I had a little bit of that agoraphobic feeling, like where I was ill at ease in like grocery stores and ill at ease like out of my house. Not to the point where I wouldn't go, and I could make myself go to the doctor, and I could make myself do various things, but I was always nervous. You know, I always had that anxiety, whereas other people in the family, the anxiety like overwhelmed them, and they were agoraphobic. Things like my Yeah, I guess I could say that. My brother told me once that he didn't like fishing, and I was like, "You're full of shit." It's like you can't come up with a better excuse than that because I wanted him to go fishing with me in the park, and he's like, "There'll be too many people there." And I'm like, "Yeah, but they're not going to bother us." And he goes, I don't care. I just don't like knowing that they're there. Like, and I'm like, well, okay. And then he's like, I don't like fishing anyway, anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's bullshit, man. We grew up fishing. You're a fisherman. You're just not having a good time right now. Now he goes fishing at the drop of a hat, and he's much more functional now. He goes to restaurants and buffets and does stuff that I could never picture him doing. I mean, the first time that I got him to go to uh, the state of New York and fish in the Niagara River with my foster brother was like, "How did you do that?" He's like, "It was like a magic trick to him." I was like, "I don't know," and I got him to go, and I scheduled the trip around the weather, which was a big mistake because the fish like it nasty. They like the cold weather, and I'm like, "Well, we can go whenever, but this day the weather's going to be pretty good." I just went by the calendar, and like I've said, the fish do not go by the calendar; they go by the weather and the water temperature. So they're not like, "Oh, it's what? It's October 23rd. Oh, it's time to fuck." No, they go by. Their instincts get triggered by the water temperature. Once the water temperature drops to a certain level, it triggers them into spawning, which means it has to be cold and nasty out. So it turned out that we went there and it was sunny and there was nobody there, and there was people actually laughing at us, the locals, for trying to fish for salmon, because there was nothing there. And like 2 days later, uh, I knew somebody that went there and they had the best fishing day of their life. And when we left the place, it turned cold, rainy, and nasty. But we stayed overnight in a motel. He made it a 2-day fishing trip, and the weather was nasty. And my foster brother, like he wanted to leave early, and that was just the next day is when the fish started rolling in because the weather had turned nasty and cold and rainy. And that's the way it works sometimes. Anyways, the point of all that was, I don't know what the point of all that was. The point of all that was is it's like early in the morning and I'm waiting for volume to kick in and I'm not feeling it yet. So, but I don't think, you know, I don't think I'll trouble you anymore. Um, but yeah, I hate Mare, man. I think that's the 10th time I've used that word. Um, that's just weird. And then wake up all full of hate. This is fucking weird. And then it really woke me up. I'm like, I'm wide awake, and I've been on a very consistent schedule of going to sleep from 8 to 10 o'clock at night and waking up usually more toward 10 o'clock at night, and then waking up at 4 in the morning. And I got my alarm set for 4 in the morning. And even when I screwed up and didn't have my alarm set, I woke up at 6 in the morning. So this is fucking weird for me to be awake at this time and having slept. I did doze a little bit. Like I walked far this morning, so I dozed a little bit um, when I got back home and I had to rest. So there's that sleep that I had, and then I weirdly got sleepy, and I'm like, well, if I feel sleepy, I should probably sleep. And then I slept for like 2.5, 3 hours. I don't know. Last time I looked at the clock, it was 8 o'clock, and then when I woke up, it was 11:13, and now it's 2 hours after that. So, um, such is the life. And I'm thinking, like, man, if I only wouldn't have clicked to read more and read about that dude's family, maybe I wouldn't have got my mind spinning and I would have just passed out and been fine. But did it got my mind spinning to the point where I was like, I kind of wanted to hear exactly what I know what happens in The Hobbit, but I wanted to hear how they worded it. when Gandalf goes in the mines of Moria, and right before he kills the great goblin. And I kept going back and missing it because my mind was wandering, thinking about that kid and his, his him taking a dump on me emotionally because he's having a shitty time with old people because old people think they know everything, you know. And if I had a separate, I do have a separate computer. I could read you what he wrote while I'm being boring. Oh, it's not here. Shit. Sometimes I put it up here. It's down there. But I don't want to minimize the screen and be boring and look it up. Ah, what the hell? Let's see if I can do it. I'm being boring anyway. Hell, I checked my fucking voicemail on here. It's more boring than that. I have to be able to move you, camera, over here. Imagine that you're watching something much more interesting right now. Oh man, if I only had free range. If I was only a free range chicken and was allowed to say whatever I wanted to on here. See, I'm going to click on the spell notification, and maybe this will turn. Sometimes it turns the video off, so just in case. Goodbye. Sometimes it turns it off. Sometimes it doesn't turn it off if I click on other stuff. So, anyways, I'll see you next time in case this doesn't work. I'm still here. I just can't see myself no more. Uh, I'll just keep the. I'll just read what the guy wrote me. So he said, I called him impolite because I said people used to be more polite back in the day. So this guy wrote me, "Oh, you have such an excellent attention span to sit through me fight with this." He said, "Impolite? No, exhausted with people who are set in their out of touch, ignorant ways, yet smugly believe they know better than the young ones or youngins that are both with the times and are the times." So he's saying, I'm with the times and I am the times, you old bastard. He said, your diatribe there was poorly constructed nonsense that exhibited so many foolish ideas that I see little to no value in trying to correct them in a stranger in YouTube comments. Now, my answer to that, if I was in debate mode, would be if you do not tell me specifically what I said that was wrong, I can't debate you. I was like, a generalized criticism cannot be defended against. You know, if I say what you wrote sucked and you don't tell me why it sucked and what sucked, what can I say? No, it didn't suck. Then the next part of that, he says, I'm sure you mean well, but that's not good enough. You need to know better. You do not, and likely never will, because you are set in your worldview. There is an almost insurmountable gulf between you and I find this sort of gulf to be extremely difficult to bridge with my own family, so I am not going to waste my time, even a few minutes, with somebody on YouTube trying to do the same thing. So let's see now uh, if the camera is even still working. Ah, it is. Okay. So obviously this guy's pissed off. Now, what did I write to piss him off? I called him a youngin. I said, "You youngins, it's not your fault because you youngins just don't have the attention spans or something else." I forget what I wrote, but it wasn't. I meant it humorously because I don't know how old the guy is. I even told him like earlier in the post, I have no idea how old you are. You know, so I don't even know if he's a youngin. I was just like, you youngins, and he just got all blew all up like that. But anyways, I don't know if like writing a reply to that and then like hearing that he's got problems with his family, and he finds that generation gap or the gap in ideas difficult to bridge in his own family. I think he went on after that. It's kind of hard for me to, not hard for me to be boring. Oh, he says he spends a lot of time with his family. With someone I barely know and will talk to for what amounts to a few minutes, there is no hope for reconciliation. That's the last thing he said to me was, there is no hope for reconciliation. I wanted to reconcile with my family. So, you know, maybe that's what triggered my hate mare. I don't know. But why do they call it a nightmare? I have to look that up because a mare is a horse. I never looked up the etymology of that word. I want to do that. I do, I like to learn. I do not like to learn electronic things that would be useful, like how to use my smartphone, but I like words, so I will actually look up the etymology of words to find out where did this word come from? Why does this word exist? I actually know that the word horror exists because of a physical process called horripilation, which is when you get goosebumps and your hair stand up on end. It's called horripilation, and that's where horror comes from. It's very memorable etymology, very visceral and effective and not forgettable because that is exactly when the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. A net, when the that's my teeth. When the hair stands up on the back of your neck at the sight of a grizzly bear and you experience that horror, you're having a horripilation because the root for hair is pile, the horripilation part. And if I can't really show off being smart, without any sleep, but at least as far as words. But that means hair. I don't know what the horary, the Latin base. I don't remember what that means. But the other part, well, I wanted to be a writer, so this was kind of important to me to for, so I could write in a layered fashion, and I could use words that had meant this, this, and this that would fit. Sometimes you could pull that off. Um, the pile of a carpeting and carpet that has hair. That's about the best I can come up with right now. Shit. Well, that sucks. Oh, sorry. That's the problem with benzodiazepines and no sleep. It's like, hello, hello in there. Can we make the necessary connections in the old hippocampus with the memory and hook up those connections? I know this stuff. I know I can think of other words that use that hair for root. A pile on a carpet, that might not even be right. I don't. I don't even know. I just threw that in there for these people so I don't look quite as foolish. Like that matters. Um, Damn. Nothing. Nothing. Harari means to shudder, I believe. Yeah. I don't know. It's been a long time. Well, I wanted to be a writer like 20 years ago. So it's been a long time since I put in any effort into it because I had already wrote uh, my masterwork and was like, oh, now I need a woman, and because I'm going to need emotional support if I'm going to figure out how to do this be a writer thing, and that's the whole point of it anyway. Is like I wanted to be somebody, and I'm going to do my work. I use that as motivation for when I was working because writing is hard. Writing a bad novel is hard. Writing a mediocre novel is like a climbing a mountain. Really trying takes all you got. So I got great. That's why I said I would read books, and even though I didn't like the books, I would finish them anyway because I understood the amount of work that went into them until I found that one that I hated and defiled because I could tell that they weren't trying. They were just slapping a bunch of crap on a page, But most authors you can read, they're trying, and I know how hard it is. So I was like, out of respect for them, I'm like, this book is not very good, but I will finish it. Um, but anyways, so this should be pretty boring. So I'll go back and listen to this as I upload it, and uh, maybe that'll put me to sleep, and maybe my schedule won't be fucked. But I don't feel sleepy at the moment. I should go eat something. My belly's telling me stuff, but I don't really have any. And I should go eat something. And yeah, I'll see you next time. And thank you for your indulgence because this was definitely a self indulgent thing. They all are really, but this was definitely self indulgent. But hopefully there was something of value in it. It's always fun to watch somebody make look foolish. I won't say make a fool out of myself because I never consider making a fool out of yourself is like, hmm, what would that be? Oh, going up to a woman and saying um, something about, uh, "Are you pregnant?" And she just gained weight. That's making a fool out of yourself. Like, when do you do? Never. I just been eating a lot of Haagen Dazs. That kind of thing. That would be making a fool out of yourself. Just acting, being yourself on camera is just being yourself. If you're a fool, you're a fool. I don't have to make myself a fool. I was born that way. So, anyways, take care, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.